What happened to Lazarus after Jesus brought him back from the dead? Why doesn't the Bible talk about what he saw when he died? If there was one man we could question about the afterlife, it would be Lazarus, because he was the best friend of Jesus. His testimony would have been the biggest story about the afterlife the world had ever known. So, why wasn't that part of his story written in the Bible? Could it be that his return wasn't just a miracle, but a warning, a secret that was never meant to be revealed to all mankind? The most shocking aspect of it is that the Jewish leaders wanted him silenced, or, let me put it this way, dead again. Why? Lazarus' story is a web of puzzles, and the deeper you go, the more questions you have without answers. Here's another one. He was Jesus' best friend, right? But why didn't Jesus heal him when he was sick? Not only that, but he also waited 4 days before going to see Lazarus' corpse and bringing him back to life. In ancient Jewish culture, a person was deemed truly dead after 3 days, but here, Jesus waited for 4 whole days. What was the secret behind this attitude of Jesus? Let's get into the details of who Lazarus really was and how his story connects with Jesus' resurrection. Let's delve in. Who exactly was Lazarus? The Bible does not provide explicit details about Lazarus' background, but by examining ancient Judean culture and how the Bible portrays him, we can weave a historical tapestry of who Lazarus might have been. Lazarus was a Jewish man from Bethany, a small village located approximately 2 miles, about 3 kilometers, east of Jerusalem, just beyond the slopes of the Mount of Olives. Unlike many figures in the Bible, we don't hear much about his personal life, his background, or his occupation. However, we know one crucial fact: he was deeply loved by Jesus. Lazarus lived in the quiet village of Bethany, just outside Jerusalem, along with his 2 sisters, Mary and Martha. This small family had a special bond with Jesus, a friendship so deep that the Gospel of John explicitly states, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister, and Lazarus." Martha is portrayed in the Bible as active, responsible, and hospitable, often busily managing household tasks and attending to guests. Mary, in contrast, is depicted as deeply spiritual and contemplative, notably choosing to sit at Jesus' feet and listen intently to his teachings rather than focusing on household duties. Jesus likely became acquainted with their family during his frequent visits to Jerusalem, as Bethany provided a convenient and peaceful resting place just outside the busy city. According to biblical accounts, their hospitality and openness deeply resonated with Jesus, who found in Lazarus, Martha, and Mary a sincere devotion and understanding rarely matched elsewhere. Notably, Mary's profound gesture of anointing Jesus' feet with expensive perfume and wiping them with her hair vividly underscored their deep bond. Judas Iscariot criticized Mary's action, arguing that the expensive perfume, worth a year's wages, should have been sold and the proceeds given to the poor. However, the Bible explicitly notes Judas's insincerity, stating he did not truly care for the poor, but was motivated by greed, as he was responsible for the disciples' common money bag and frequently stole from it. Jesus responded by firmly defending Mary's action, declaring, "Leave her alone. It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me." Furthermore, Jesus emphasized that Mary's gesture of devotion would be remembered and honored wherever the gospel was preached, highlighting the deep spiritual significance and prophetic nature of her act. In ancient Judean culture, anointing someone's feet was a profound act of honor, humility, and devotion, typically performed by servants or those of lower social status. Mary's use of expensive perfume and her choice to wipe Jesus' feet with her hair amplified her reverence and submission. This Mary of Bethany is traditionally considered distinct from Mary Magdalene, who came from Magdala and was famously freed from 7 demons by Jesus, subsequently becoming one of his devoted followers. The household of Lazarus, Martha, and Mary became well known as a place of hospitality and warmth, frequently visited by Jesus and his disciples. In line with the cultural expectations of Judean society, Lazarus was likely deeply respected and admired in his community. recognized for his kindness, quiet strength, and reflective nature. At one point, Jesus sought refuge in their home in Bethany because the religious authorities in Jerusalem had become increasingly hostile toward him. After several confrontations with religious leaders, tensions escalated dramatically. Jesus, aware of a growing threat to his safety, withdrew to Bethany as a place of temporary shelter and protection. Their home provided a safe haven away from the immediate dangers of Jerusalem, allowing Jesus to rest, regain strength, and continue teaching his disciples privately in preparation for the challenging times ahead. Unfortunately, tragedy struck when Lazarus became gravely ill, a severe illness that rapidly weakened him and confined him to bed for several days. Martha and Mary urgently sent a messenger to Jesus, who at that time was across the Jordan River, in the region of Perea, teaching and baptizing followers alongside his disciples. The sisters deeply believed that Jesus could heal Lazarus and anxiously awaited his arrival. Despite the urgency conveyed by the messenger, Jesus deliberately chose to remain in Perea for 2 additional days. He informs his disciples that Lazarus's illness would ultimately serve to glorify God. The request was urgent. Lazarus was dying. Surely Jesus, who had healed countless strangers, would rush to the aid of a dear friend, right? But instead, he did something completely unexpected. For 2 whole days, Jesus stayed where he was, despite knowing that Lazarus was on his deathbed. This wasn't an oversight. It was intentional. But why? Jesus later told his disciples, "Lazarus is dead, and for your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe." Was this a test of faith for Mary and Martha? Was he making a larger statement about life and death? Now, there is something about ancient Judea that we all need to know. Judeans are very much aware of life after death. When someone dies, they believe it takes 3 days for his or her spirit to leave him or her, as their spirit was thought to leave the body. But Jesus waited 4 days, ensuring there would be no doubt that Lazarus was truly dead before he arrived. Let's look at what we usually overlook about Jesus' act. We don't consider these things when we are talking about Yeshua. Jesus is never frantic or anxious about anything. For instance, Jesus was peacefully asleep on a boat during a severe storm, while his disciples panicked, afraid they might drown. When they woke him up frantically, he calmly rebuked the wind and waves, immediately bringing peace. He then gently rebuked the disciples for their lack of faith. This story clearly shows Jesus' unwavering peace even amid chaos, proving he is never anxious or frantic. Jesus acts according to God's timing and not human pressure. Let's see this example. When Jairus asked Jesus to heal his dying daughter, Jesus took his time, stopping to heal a bleeding woman along the way. Though Jairus' daughter died during the delay, Jesus assured Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just believe," and eventually raised the girl from the dead. His delay revealed that he moves according to God's timetable, not people's demands. Similarly, at the wedding in Cana, when Mary told Jesus about the shortage of wine, he responded, "My hour has not yet come," clearly demonstrating he operates according to God's schedule, not human urgency. Nevertheless, he eventually turned water into wine at precisely the right moment, proving God's perfect timing. These examples illustrate clearly that Jesus' delay in visiting Lazarus was intentional and purposeful, never anxious, always timely, and ultimately designed to glorify God and deepen faith. When Jesus finally reached Bethany, the grief in the air was heavy. Mourners surrounded Mary and Martha, comforting them in their sorrow. When Martha heard that Jesus had arrived, she ran to him, devastated, saying, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Then, something unexpected happened. Jesus wept. This is the shortest verse in the Bible. Just 2 words. Jesus wept. John 11:35. But these 2 words carry an ocean of meaning. Why did Jesus cry? He knew he was about to raise Lazarus from the dead. So why feel sorrow? Was he grieving for Lazarus? Or was he showing a deeper connection to human suffering? This is a good question. The answer is even better. It's because weeping is the most appropriate response to the loss of someone you love. And it doesn't matter if you're Jesus and you know that the outcome is going to be a resurrection. Loss is loss, period. And loss hurts. But it's hard to truly cry in front of others because it does feel faithless and wimpy. But why? I think it's because of the vulnerability of love. Love is like taking off the mask of self-reliance, as if others really don't mean that much to you. When you love someone deeply, it feels threatening and frightening to expose your true self. The one that does not want to be without the other. You, the one who does not want to walk alone. You, the one who feels empty and half alive without the other. This is not psychobabble. The Jews remarked upon watching and hearing Jesus weep over Lazarus's death. See how he loved him. Then came the moment that changed everything. Jesus, standing before the tomb, commanded the stone to be rolled away. But Martha, who always has something to say, or is ever the practical one, protested, "Lord, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." Then Jesus said this prayer, "Father, I know you listen to me, but for the sake of those around me to believe, I come to you at this moment." Then he looked up, and then spoke the words that would shake history. "Lazarus, come forth." And Lazarus walked out of the tomb, alive. He was still wrapped in burial cloths, proving that he had truly been dead. But what was the true purpose of this miracle? Was it just about bringing back a loved one? Or was Jesus making a statement about his own power over life and death? Some say Lazarus never spoke again when he was resurrected, but how true is it? You will know about that later on. If Lazarus could tell us what he saw, what would he say? And more importantly, would we be ready to hear it? Share your thoughts on it in the comments. Stay blessed.